Welcome back to High Stakes. Today, we will be discussing the following NCAAF matches that is happening on Thursday, November 2nd, 2023. We will be providing our team, total, and prop picks for the day. Before we get started, please remember to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. If you want access to our premium picks, you can check out our Patreon page. You can find the link to our Patreon page in the description and comment section below. TCU versus Texas Tech. TCU is 4-4 this season, and they hold a 2-3 record in Big 12 conference play. The Horned Frogs are in a tie for 8th place in the conference standings. The Horned Frogs have lost 3 of their last 4 games. In their last game, TCU lost 41-3 to Kansas State on Saturday, October 21st. The Horned Frogs scored their first field goal on their second offensive possession. But it obviously wouldn't be enough as they were thoroughly dominated. TCU turned the ball over just once in the loss, but they went 2-for-13 on third down, which was a huge downfall for them. On the other hand, Kansas State went 10-for-13 on third down to keep their drives alive. Starting quarterback Josh Hoover threw for 187 yards on 23-for-43, passing for 187 yards and 1 interception. Running back Imani Bailey rushed for 100 yards on 12 carries, 2. First-string quarterback Chandler Morris will be out for their game against Texas Tech. He has been out for a few weeks with an injury, which Hoover has taken over for. Hoover has a passing completion of 59%, and he has tossed 6 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in his short time as the quarterback. Bailey has rushed for 851 yards this season, and he is averaging 5.8 yards per game with 2 touchdowns this season. On defense, TCU is led by Nnamdi Obiazer, who has secured 65 tackles this season. His 65 tackles are 22 tackles more than anyone else on the roster. Paulo Iwale and Obiazer both have 3 sacks each, which leads the team. TCU is averaging 29.4 points per game, which ranks 61st in the nation. They are passing for 290 yards per game, which ranks 20th in the nation. The Horned Frogs are rushing for 175 yards on the ground per game, which ranks 42nd. Texas Tech is 3-5 this season, and they currently hold a 2-3 Big 12 conference record. The Red Raiders are currently in 8th place in the conference standings. After winning 2 of their first 3 Big 12 games, Texas Tech has lost back-to-back games to Kansas State and BYU. The Red Raiders are coming off of their bye week. In their last game, BYU defeated Texas Tech 27-14 on Saturday, October 21st. The Red Raiders scored just 1 touchdown in the first half. BYU controlled the entire game as the Cougars led 27-7 into the fourth quarter. Texas Tech scored a late touchdown as a consolation. The Red Raiders turned the ball over 5 times in the loss. Quarterback Jake Strong threw 3 interceptions and just 1 touchdown as he tossed 19-for-37 and 236 yards. Running back Taj Brooks rushed for 105 yards on 31 rushes and 1 touchdown. Texas Tech has had their trouble with quarterbacks this season. Starting quarterback Tyler Shaw was hurt a few weeks ago, and it is out for the foreseeable future. Baron Morton, their backup quarterback, fell injured against Kansas State 3 weeks ago. He did not feature against BYU, but it was Strong, who is a true freshman. Morton is a game-time decision for the outing against TCU. Brooks is the top offensive threat for the Red Raiders. He has rushed for 891 yards for 6 touchdowns. He is averaging 5.5 yards per carry. On defense, the Red Raiders are led by Ben Roberts. He has 66 tackles this season, which leads the team by 15 tackles. Miles Cole is the top sack getter on the roster with 3.5 sacks. Mallet Dunlap has also picked off opposing quarterbacks 3 times this season. Texas Tech and TCU find themselves on fairly even ground, having faced some challenging losses and grappling with quarterback injuries on both teams. However, I believe the advantage in this upcoming game leans towards the Red Raiders, primarily due to the potential return of Morton to their lineup. His presence is a significant asset, and the team has experienced difficulties in his absence over the past few games. Furthermore, Texas Tech boasts a strong running game, with Brooks averaging more than 5 yards per carry. TCU, on the other hand, has shown vulnerability in defending against the run, ranking 79th in the nation in this aspect. The absence of their starting quarterback will likely pose challenges for TCU in this game. For these reasons, I recommend choosing the Red Raiders to cover the spread. This total is far too high for both of these teams that are struggling on the offensive end. With backup offensive players all throughout each team's rosters playing in this game, I expect the score to be really low. This should not be the average high-scoring Big 12 conference game that we are accustomed to. The under is 11-5 combined between these two teams. Take the under. Next we have Wake Forest versus Duke. Wake Forest found themselves down early after they yielded 4 first-half touchdowns. The Demon Deacons were only able to match one of those scores during the first 2 frames. Wake Forest converted 3 to 14 times on 3rd down and generated just over 200 yards offensively. The defense came away with 1 sack. Wake Forest comes into this contest averaging 20.1 points per game, which lands them at 107th in America. The Demon Deacons rely primarily on the ground as nearly 57% of their plays are designed runs. Damon Claiborne leads the way with 4.5 yards per tote, and he's racked up 5 touchdowns this season. While Claiborne did bust free on a 16-yard scamper, he was limited to 21 yards against FSU. On the whole, Wake Forest is getting 3.5 yards per carry for just under 150 ground yards per game. Mitch Griffiths has been okay under center, but he's completing passes at less than a 57% clip, and this has hindered the Wake offense both on 3rd downs and in the red zone. Wake Forest is moving the sticks roughly 1 out of every 3 third downs, and their red zone scoring rate, 88th, comes away with a score on 80% of their trips inside the 20. Jamal Banks has been Griffiths' favorite option as he leads the team in catches, having 16 more than the next highest wideout. Wesley Grimes has been the team's deep threat option as he's averaging over 18 yards per catch and has 16 total catches on the season. It'll be paramount for the front 7 to give Griffiths time here, lest they continue to struggle on 3rd downs and fail to move the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, Wake Forest is allowing 25.6 points per game, which is good for 56th in the nation. Over the last 5 games, Wake Forest has posted a 1-4 record, and in 3 of those contests, they've given up more than their season average. This hints at the potential ceiling for the offense being unable to eclipse the 25-point mark consistently enough to garner wins when the defense fails to pull its weight. The Demon Deacons are allowing 5.9 yards per play, and this has hindered them on 3rd down. FSU's offense is superior to nearly any defense that takes the field, but Wake Forest only held them to 7 to 14 on 3rd down, and on the season, Wake is allowing foes to move the sticks at a near 40% clip. The front line has done a decent job getting to the backfield, and they'll need to continue to pressure the quarterback considering the secondary is allowing passes to be completed at a 61.5% rate for an average depth of 8.2 yards. Despite Duke's recent offensive struggles, their on-paper superiority in offense is evident, and they are undoubtedly determined to make a statement after failing to penetrate Louisville's red zone. Leonard has consistently demonstrated his capability to produce crucial plays when required this season, and Waters' knack for breaking into significant runs should provide a boost to the offense. It's worth noting that Wake Forest has allowed 30 or more points in 2 of their last 3 games, and I anticipate that Duke's offense will find its groove in this matchup. Therefore, I recommend taking Duke with the 12.5-point spread at home. As mentioned, Duke's offense has looked tepid at best lately, and the same can be said for Wake Forest. It's hard to envision a path to sustained offensive success for the Demon Deacons as Duke has been solid in the red zone and on 3rd down. Likewise, Wake Forest hasn't been able to keep the offense on the field on their 3rd down tries, and their 2+ turnovers per game will likely stall drives at pivotal moments as well. The last 6 Wake Forest road games have gone under the number, and I expect this one too. Next we have South Alabama versus Troy. This season, the South Alabama Jaguars are a roller coaster team. At 4-4, they've played well at times and not so well during others. The Jaguars, in their last game against the Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns, lost 33-20. Nevertheless, their offensive statistics are worth mentioning. Their quarterback, senior Carter Bradley, has been their outstanding player after throwing for 2,156 yards this season. However, a knee injury to Bradley clouds his availability for this game and is a huge blow to the passing attack that averages 285.5 yards per contest, which ranks 25th in the country. It is not just a one-sided attack for the Jags, they have developed a ground game too. At 674 rushing yards, running back senior LaDamian Webb leads the ground attack that ranks 51st with a total of 168.8 yards per game on the ground. However, yards are not the only issue. It is about scoring touchdowns, and Webb has managed to do that 13 times on the ground this season. While offensively, this balance makes them unpredictable and difficult to defend against. The offense on aggregate ranks 20th in the nation in total yards per game with 454.3. Yet the Jaguars are walking wounded into this matchup. On top of Bradley's availability remaining a doubt, they will be without running back Braylon McReynolds, broken collarbone, and wide receiver Devin Voisin, knee. Bringing pressure on the defense, which has given up an average of 316.9 yards per game by playmaking, could be limited in this sort of injury. Concerning statistics, Troy has the edge here, and that includes on the side of defense. The South Alabama offense, which is likely to miss key players through injury, is set to face the Trojans' defense and will struggle as the Trojans have conceded only an average of 301.0 total yards per game. Troy has a turnover advantage with quarterback Gunnar Watson's low interception rate, which could come in handy. Pair this up with the home ground advantage for Trojans, which has particularly been very reliable, and it is as simple as why they are favorites. Statistically and situationally, Troy should cover the 6-point spread. South Alabama and Troy have both been fairly productive offensively this season, with the Jaguars netting 454.3 total yards per outing, closely followed by the latter at 441.8. Troy has a solid defense that only gives up an average of 301 total yards a game, while South Alabama's defensive numbers are not as good at 316.9 yards. With both offenses boasting serious firepower and key defensive players perhaps set to miss out, expect plenty of goals in Stoke on Saturday. The over looks to play here, with both teams likely scoring enough points to eclipse the 46-point mark.